I guess you'd say I've got a love-hate relationship with Bermuda grass, but I will say over time I've become more in love with Bermuda grass. I use that word loosely there. I don't love it like I do my children or my wife or anything like that. But I don't hate Bermuda grass, and I actually have come to appreciate a lot of the benefits of it. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the pros and cons of Bermuda grass. Let's lay it out there. What's good about it, what's not so good about it, and why maybe you should give it a second thought if you're opposed to Bermuda grass. Today's video is sponsored by Graham Spray Equipment. When I'm not doing videos, I run a local weed control and fertilization business, and I have a Graham spray rig on the back of my truck. If you want to start a weed control and fertilization business and need a spray rig, go to grahamse.com or give those guys a call. Alright, this video is filmed in the fall, so don't make fun of me because the grass is not super lush and green. If you live in the Midwest or somewhere and you've got cool season grasses, then just understand our grass does not stay green all year long, and I even get customers seemingly every year, not every year, but anyway, a lot of times people from the Midwest that move here to the South, I'm in Alabama, and they'll tell me their grass is dead, and I say no, it's have a conversation. What's the difference in dead and dormant? This is not dormant yet, but it's trending that way and won't be long, and it'll be pretty much solid brown or tan looking, which is fine with me. Let's go through some of the pros of having a Bermuda grass lawn. Well, you see, this is my yard. This is just my front yard. I live on about 4 acres here. Got probably 3 acres of Bermuda grass. And some of you that have been watching the channel for a long time know that I didn't sod this whole yard solid. That would have took a lot of sod for 3 acres. What I did was just take sprigs of Bermuda grass and just put them out here in the yard. The yard is a total wreck when we got the house. And we tilled it up, sprayed it, I forget what all I did, but trying to get rid of all the nastiness. And then just took sprigs of Bermuda and washed the spread. Now, I got a lot of fertilizer and water and all that, and I actually did it in the middle of the summer, which was not a great idea because it was hard to keep it alive. We didn't get much rain. A lot of challenges, but look at it now. A lot of sod, and again, it's not green, but this is pretty much solid Bermuda. Looks great in the summertime, and didn't have to sod it solid. So what's my point about that? The point is Bermuda grass spreads really, really fast. Now again, you may be dealing with cool season grass, just thinking, well, Jason, what I can do is just go throw a bunch of seed out in the fall and wham, I got a brand new yard in a few weeks. Well, it doesn't typically work that way with us with the warm season grasses. I can't grow this from seed, so I had to let it spread on its own. Of course, I could have sodded it, but that would have been very expensive. So one thing is Bermuda grass grows really, really fast, and I think in many ways that's an advantage. Now, it doesn't mean that it grows super fast, like vertically, it has to be mowed all the time. It does grow pretty fast, but I'm saying it spreads really fast. And the other thing about that is it's actually pretty cheap to buy at the sod farms, because I think the sod farms can grow it so fast. They can harvest it and it grows back and harvest it again and grows back. Compare that with zoysia or another kind of grass that would grow much slower. It's going to cost you more because it takes them longer to grow it. A second thing I like about Bermuda grass is from a weed control and fertilization standpoint, it is not indestructible, but it's pretty close. You can put a lot of stuff on Bermuda grass, including spraying it with glyphosate in the wintertime when it goes dormant. Now, some of you might know this from experience because you might have tried to kill Bermuda grass, and you'll find it's actually very difficult to kill it when you're trying to kill it. Even when it gets into flower beds and I spray it with glyphosate, sometimes it might take multiple applications to kill it. It can be a challenge to get rid of Bermuda. Well, from a weed control and fertilization standpoint, I think that's an advantage. You can use a lot of products on Bermuda grass without concern of damaging the turf. Where of the warm season grasses that I deal with, Bermuda, zoysia, centipede, and St. Augustine, it's going to be the hardiest as far as that goes, the least sensitive to herbicide damage. Again, I don't mean you can go out there and mess up on purpose or you got to quadruple the rate or anything. Still go by the label, use products that are labeled for Bermuda grass. But from a weed control standpoint, you can do a better job of controlling weeds because of the products that you're able to put on there without damaging the turf. Let me walk and talk at the same time. Third thing I like about it, besides being able to spread fast and being able to spray a lot of herbicide on it, I like that it's extremely drought tolerant. I'll show you one part of my yard that I can explain that by. This is my yard, and when they put the septic tank in, my yard's pretty flat, so they had to get the septic tank up here where they have the field lines flowing downhill, and so there's very little dirt on top of this septic tank, which I understand. I understand that when they did it, and I was like, can you put a little bit of dirt, but you don't want like a big mound in your front yard that looks all weird. So because it's shallow, this is the indicator area that will typically turn brown in the summertime when we go get some dry weather. But Bermuda grass is amazingly drought tolerant. It was about 6 years ago. We had what was a generational drought during August and September. So very hot months of the year and very, very dry. And I think it went about 2 months without any kind of measurable rain in the hottest part of the year too. Doing that, I had a centipede yard at the time, and I was taking care of a lot of people's yard. My centipede was crunchy brown. I watered it a little bit, and I think most of it came back the next year. I saw some zoysia yards that actually did die or had dead spots because of that extreme drought. Lots of mature shrubs and things that died, even mature trees. But I don't know if I saw a single Bermuda grass yard that didn't come back the next year. And I've got hundreds of Bermuda grass yards. Now they will turn absolutely crunchy brown. It will look dead. But what happened is, you know, maybe that they just kind of shift into an early dormancy, and the next spring, boom, they come back. Now I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying that's ideal. I'm not saying it doesn't affect how it might come out the next spring. But from a drought tolerant standpoint, Bermuda grass is about as good as you can get. I think I was talking to somebody recently about planting Bermuda, and I said, you know what, if you plant it now in the fall, and it has time to get rooted, makes it through winter, I said, yeah, I don't even think you're gonna have to water it next year. I mean, it's probably gonna be fine. That don't mean it won't turn brown. It don't mean that you couldn't use water, that water's helpful. But from a survival standpoint, I think once it gets rooted, and it roots very fast, then you'll be good to go. So if you don't water your yard much, and you don't want to water your yard, Bermuda grass is not a bad option for you. So what are some of the negatives about a Bermuda grass yard? Well, let me just start with one. Let me just show it to you. That's sometimes better than talking about it. We talked about Bermuda grass and trying to keep it out of your flower beds, and it's hard to kill. Well, that's one of the problems, is it does run into the flower beds. Now you can maintain that with a string trimmer and help, and you say, well, why don't you have a border there? You know, put some rocks or bricks or stone or landscaping timbers or something. Well, believe me, it finds its way past that too. Bermuda grass will grow in the crack of your sidewalk. It is extremely aggressive at growing. So it is a challenge to keep it out of flower beds. That's probably not nearly as concerned with people with cool season grasses. But for us with the warm season grasses, they run, and that does become an issue. Again, I said that's part of the advantage. They does spread fast. It does allow me to cover all these acres with very little grass, and it helped it fill in quickly. But the negative side of that is it's going to run into your flower beds as well. It can be a little bit of a pain to keep up with. Maybe this is nitpicking a little bit, but when the grass goes dormant especially, Bermuda grass is really bad about tracking all over your shoes and everything. I had customers and they want it bagged. They say, oh, my dog tracks it in the house and things like of that nature. Not my dog, I might be one of the few people in the world that still leaves their dogs outside. It is known for having clippings everywhere, and there's lots of clippings. Now the good news is, in the summertime, it's not as bad. You're mowing regular and those clippings can break down pretty fast and actually provide some nutrients back into the soil. But when it goes dormant, yes, you get this, and it does track into the house, whether on your shoes or on an animal. One of the biggest challenges I have from Bermuda grass, and I would say this is a negative, we talked about being able to spray a lot of things on it to control the weeds. The other side of the equation is you need to spray a lot of things on if you want to keep the weeds out, because it is not good at all at keeping weeds out. Bermuda grass can be thick and healthy. In the wintertime, it can be very thin to the point where you can get down and part the grass and actually see the dirt, where a zoysia lawn is going to be much thicker and much better at choking out weeds naturally. I remember one time I had this story. I had a customer, he was not from here, did not speak great English, and that was okay, but I just don't think he kind of understood how turf grass works. And he paid me to take care of his yard for maybe a year or so, and we got it looking pretty good, and he just said something like, okay, we're done, it's finished, you know, like I did it, it's finished. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I think he was basically firing me. He thought, you know, you got rid of the weeds, it's done. We don't have to do anything anymore. And I was like, well, that's not exactly how it works. With a Bermuda grass lawn, if I neglected my lawn for a year, it would have a ton of weeds. If I neglect it for 2 years, it would be a weed salad. I mean, it would be just weeds everywhere. I really believe that. Whereas zoysia yard, I've got one customer that's got, the neighbor has zoysia, and I remember this, kind of bothered me a little bit, but the neighbor come over and said, my yard looks better than theirs and I don't do anything. Well, he had very neatly manicured zoysia grass and didn't have a lot going on in his life, I feel like. And it did. His yard looked great. Now my customers got Bermuda, it was full of weeds and all this, you know, it's kind of cleaned up then, but he was making an observation. I want to say, well, you know, it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison. Let me get you a Bermuda yard and her a Bermuda yard, and let's talk about which one looks better. But yeah, you got a zoysia that's choking out weeds that you're mowing all the time versus a Bermuda that doesn't get mowed very often at all. It's not, again, not apples to apples. So these are a few of the things, pros and cons of Bermuda grass. I kind of like Bermuda. I like just the hardiness of it. I feel like I can fix it. I do spray glyphosate on mine in the wintertime, and you know what, I feel like if it does get damaged, it's very quick to bounce back, but not that I've damaged it doing that. I don't really have any concern doing that at all. A lot of videos on the channel if you want to learn more about grass and killing weeds and things. If you're new to the channel, so you can subscribe. I've been on YouTube for a long time. Also, if you want to get in weed control and fertilization like me, you can go to lawncarelife.com. There's resources like the Weed Control and Fertilization Academy, letters, pricing charts, all kind of stuff. There's also information about the Lawn Care Life Conference. So go there, click on the conference link, and we're got exciting lineup, even a VIP option for that. So hope to see many of you there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.